Hello, Ashley.
Hey, Stephanie. So
It
happy to
is,
be here.
I am so happy and excited for you to be here. And, when I first was creating this podcast a while ago, um, and I thought, okay, I want to have conversations with my dear friends because I know like the richness in the one-on-one conversations that we have and being able to share that with people. On
Yeah.
my journey, I always craved like listening in and understanding what people were experiencing, on a more personal level, because I always feel that on social media and everything, it's so polished a lot of the times. And it's like, but
Yeah.
where is the meat? Where is like, I don't want to say nitty gritty because we don't all want to share that, but sometimes we feel so alone in our journey and we have so many questions and just being like, I'm not alone when I hear someone share a more raw and vulnerable version of what their experience is. So that's why I was
Yeah.
excited to, bring people like you onto this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, it's such an honor. Yeah, I agree. I love having these deep conversations with friends, and we get to learn from each other and reflect from each other. And that's really what the sacred beauty of community is getting to see ourselves in each other. And yeah, I'm just excited too, because it's so beautiful where our conversations always go. It's always
Yes.
very just a big shift in energy. It's a spiritual
Yes.
experience in itself. So getting to be here with you, and hopefully it
It truly
touches
is.
whoever it's meant to touch.
That's for
If
sure.
anything, it's going to be just so nourishing doing this with you. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. I love your background. Is that one of your altars?
Yeah, this is my main altar for my work, and yeah, kind of the energy I set up for any sessions I'm having with clients. And it's just, yeah, there's kind of like multiple altars going on all along this entire wall that you can't see.
Mm,
And it's just kind of like radiating energy at me as I'm working and connecting, and radiating energy outwards as well. It's
yes.
I kind of want energy to transmit to you. And so yeah,
Yes.
it's
It
I
is
love it.
it is really beautiful and it feels like deeply feminine and
Yeah,
deeply
that's
mystic. Like I feel like
exactly.
this mysticism, this energy coming through. I love it.
Yes. Well, you know, all the work I do is
Yes.
connected with the divine feminine mysteries,
Hmm.
and that's exactly the energy I'm radiating. I mean, the energy I want radiating out primarily at this corner is, Mother Mary, and then we
Hmm.
have the big amethyst cathedral, and then this beautiful rose crystal that my husband had just bought for me. I don't know if you saw it on, did you see it on
I
social media?
did see that. That is like
It's
so
so beautiful.
magical.
It is so magical. And I was just like, oh, I've just never seen such a gorgeous, radiating rose crystal. I mean, I feel connected to
Hmm.
crystals as this rose energy, but having it carved into one, and I just feel like it's emanating rays of welcoming. That's very welcoming energy into the
Yes.
rose mysteries. And so I kind of have that place here to
Absolutely.
to emanate out. So I'm glad you feel it.
I
It's
I
good.
definitely do, and I'm also very impressed that RJ was able to pick that out.
I
Men don't
know.
always like pick out the best gifts or are as, like intuitive to like what we may need or what we may want. So,
Yeah, no, he's actually really, really wonderful at getting me crystals. He started with getting me this very small fluorite crystal from that shop, and he subtly
ooh.
mentioned that there was this beautiful fluorite rose. And like, I think because of my reaction to it, I
Hmm.
was like, what?
Yeah.
You saw this? Because my Mother's Day and my birthday fall very close to each other. So
Hmm.
it's always an opportunity to kind of like double up on gifts. So he saw my reaction, and then he went back and
He
he
just
got it for
knew.
me. Yeah, it was really special.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a lot today about intuition and
Yeah.
developing intuition. And, I, for myself, I find that intuition comes a lot easier for other people than it does for myself. Well, I hear it, I know it, I feel it, but it's so easy to maybe ignore or to push aside,
Mhm.
because our ego mind gets into play so many of the times. Like our fear starts to shine through a lot of the time, and it kind of like protects us from where our intuition wants to push us. So I wanted to know, like, in your development of your intuition, did you ever find that? Did you find that, it's a lot easier to share intuitive hits for other people than it is to really be brave enough to follow your own?
I love that distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I feel like I can trust my own intuition or channeling for others. And I think that there is a distinction. There
Mm-hmm.
definitely is a difference between, tuning into oneself and in one's own inner guiding compass. And then the next step is not only tuning into it, but can you trust it?
Mm-hmm.
And being okay with being made a fool. I think that's the biggest reason why we don't trust our intuition is, am I going to make a mistake? And am I going to
Mm-hmm.
am I going to be a fool? Am I going to choose something that's quote unquote wrong, which you can't actually do? But
Right.
but I have learned to definitely trust my intuition. And I think when it comes to ourselves, trusting ourselves, that trust needs to come more deeply from the heart and the
Mm-hmm.
womb. And so it's more, I think trusting ourselves has to feel really embodied. Whereas when we're channeling information, especially for others, it's more as this, it's not exactly for you. So it comes through in this way that feels a lot more like you're reading information, or
Mm-hmm.
you're watching a movie and you're just kind of transcribing it. But when it's for you, it's the way you're going to trust it is for it to become really embodied. And I think the biggest key there is trust. And when I first started developing, when I first started receiving all my intuitive messaging, especially with
Mm-hmm.
clients, and, I think of course, when you're a highly sensitive person and you're developing your intuitive gifts, ever since you're a child, you've always felt this connection to self or higher perception
Mm-hmm.
or feeling those nudges or kind of having that premonition of where it's safe to be or where it's not, or um, who's a true authentic friend or not, um, or like what path you want to follow or not. There's just kind of this sense happening within you besides the noise that's happening around you, and that leads to a lot of uncomfortable situations because you're oftentimes not following the cultural norm or what your
Mm-hmm.
social group wants, or and so if you don't have that strong sense of self, which most of us didn't as teenagers and as children, because that wasn't nurtured, you can kind of shift away from your own inner
Mm-hmm.
guiding system, and that's where we start to not trust ourselves. It's because then we're having this inner conflict of like what's happening around us and society and our community and our friends and our lovers, and then what's happening within us, and it starts to get really muddled up. But when I started, I think for me, I've always followed my heart. I've always listened very deeply to when I feel a resounding truth within my heart. I can't explain it besides this feeling of it's like a stone drops in my heart and it's not going to move. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. It's not a weight. It's like it's like a really powerful hug, I guess. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
very loving presence of like, this is the path they're walking.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make it easy. And it doesn't mean it's
Mm-hmm.
like there isn't doubts and insecurities and fears that come in. It's just that I can't move it. There's no way that I can
Mm-hmm.
avoid what I'm feeling in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just been many times where there's been big decisions that stone, that like divine stone has like anchored me, saying this is the path. And I think that has developed not just from this lifetime, but from the many other lifetimes of really trusting myself and my path. Um, so trusting myself has actually come easier. So it's easier
Mm-hmm.
in this lifetime, but when having to trust my intuitive gifts for others, that's where
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a little bit more challenge. Now, that doesn't mean when I'm going through challenging situations in life that it's challenging to receive messages for myself. And that's why I go to guides, intuitive healers, and other psychics, because it's like, there's so much emotion happening within me. I can't get a clear signal. So
Yes.
it is really helpful having that support and those guides when I'm in that emotional uproar. But when I started receiving these intuitive messages, when I was working on clients, I had no idea what was happening. I just thought, like, and my only idea of an intuitive and a psychic at that point was not the understanding of trusting yourself, listening to your inner guiding compass, feeling that embodied sense of self guiding you. Like, none of that I associated with intuition, being highly sensitive, feeling people's emotions. Like, I didn't think that was intuition. There was no conversation around it.
Right.
Now I know that is what intuition is. It's very much just being deeply aware of self and deeply connected to self. But when I started hearing my clients' thoughts and feeling their emotions and receiving messages from their guides, I was like, what is happening? Like, I shouldn't be doing this. I literally thought something was, I did one Google search online. I was like, giving Reiki sessions and like psychic messages coming through. And like this one article I pulled up was like, you should not be doing that. Like, that is not professional, and you can't be, you could really be misguiding someone. Like, you just have to not do that and just do Reiki. And I was like, oh my gosh, what I'm doing is awful and wrong, and I shouldn't be doing this. Like, I'm going to cause more harm. And so that's when I, while giving Reiki sessions, just like cut off the best I could my intuition. It was just kind of a switch where I was like, well, anytime a message would come through, instead of engaging with it, which is how we have conversations with our intuitive channel. Something comes in, it's like, oh, hello, what's that? Can you come in clearer? What do you mean? You engage with it like you would in anything else, and then the conversation develops and more intuitive messages come through. But when that would happen, I'd be like, nope, not happening. Just kind of like turn it off. And after the sessions, it just felt like there was this, like, everyone was like, oh, that was nice. And I was like, yes, it was nice. And they're like, okay, that was it. And then, but it just didn't feel complete for me. And I was like, okay, but like, I can't do that because that's wrong. That's not right. So finally, after doing that for many, many sessions over about a month period, I got that feeling in my heart again. That was like, you're not sharing your gifts in the way that you need to be doing. Like, these are actually important. So I was like, okay, I'm going to trust. I'm going to really just deeply trust that what's coming through me. And also is that started coming into the understanding of, it's not about me. Like, get over yourself. It's not about you. It's about what's coming through you, but it's not about you. So get out of the way because this needs to come through. And so when I kind of stopped making it about myself, whether I'm bad or good, and just, this is what's here, how does it resonate with you? Take it or leave it. And when I just started really trusting that and not judging the information of like, that doesn't make sense, or how am I going to explain that, or that's a really challenging topic to discuss. I just trusted what came through. And so for me in the beginning, it was more of a challenge of really trusting what was coming through. And then now that I anchored that in over the last 5 years, I mean, it flows and flows and flows. And what's really interesting is that there'll be times where I'm doing intuitive readings now, and sometimes messages won't come that powerfully and strong. And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, why? What is happening? Why? And I'll like work even harder, like trying to tune my inner dial. And then I remember getting this message from Spirit one time. It was like, stop trying. Like, this person isn't meant to receive. It's not going to be helpful. Like, there's plenty to perceive here, but it's not going to be helpful for them to receive it. So that was like another even deeper layer of trusting, because like, when I receive a lot of messages, it's perfect. When I don't receive a lot of messages, it's perfect as well. Of course, there's the nuance of, we can develop our gifts, and more sleep we have, the better our focus, like all of that is going to help with our intuitive abilities, but there is more of a nuance too on how much someone can receive right now and perceive.
Yes.
And that speaks to us as well. Because
Yes.
so oftentimes it's like, I want to know, like, what is the next path? What is the solution here? Why am I not getting where I want to be? And it's like, you're not meant to receive that information yet. Like, even if
Yes.
you received it, it would be a waste because you wouldn't be able to take action towards it. It's, the divine really knows how to work with us, and on our higher self, we know what
Mm-hmm.
we're ready for. And so I find with intuition, especially intuiting with myself, it's not always about knowing everything. It's
Yes.
about trusting and
Yes.
like deep, deep surrender. So
Yes.
long-winded, but yes.
No, that was so beautiful. And it touched upon so many things.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that. And, you know, I think that is such an important point is that we're not always meant to know. Sometimes we're just meant to experience it and just be fully
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
It, that happened in my relationships. I received so much like premonition. Like I saw him, his hair, his name, like his
Wow.
height, all of these different things. I knew all of that. But then, of course, as an intuitive, I wanted to know more with the relationship. But I was like, it was like radio silent. It was like I was completely cut off. And I realized it was because I was meant to really surrender
Yeah.
and just experience and allow it to unfold. And that has happened to a lot of things in my life where there are times where it's super duper clear and I can take that step. Like I will jump off a cliff
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I trust. But then I start to get frustrated and I start to question when then after that point, I stop getting like all of that clear guidance. It's
Yes.
more subtle or it's
Yep.
more like, stop and just be and just kind of like take one step at a time and just I don't know, it's almost like being human. It's almost like as basic as living the human experience, which is so hard
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when your intuition is so developed and when you are so connected to those higher realms and that higher energy. It's like coming back down, earth can be hard. The energy can be so dense. And then when you're meant to like just exist within that density sometimes for however long, it's like, ah, it feels like a letdown. I mean, sometimes I question. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't have connection anymore. But I know that
Mm.
I do, but it's just for whatever reason at a certain time I'm meant to just exist within this density. I'm meant
Yeah.
to really experience Earth and
Yeah.
being a human.
The not knowing. It's
Mhm.
really, I see that as the feminine consciousness. And one aspect of it
Mhm.
is the darkness, is the unknown, is the
Mhm.
rebirthing process. It's the death process. And no matter how far along you are, far along, I'm doing quotation marks, you are
Yeah.
on the spiritual path, whatever that actually
Exactly.
means, we're all going to still continuously experience those challenges and the dark
Yep.
night of the soul and the shadow
Mhm.
aspects. It's
Yes.
just a part of the not knowing is a part of it. And it doesn't make it any easier. I still will sometimes be kicking my feet going through those
Mhm.
dark moments, but going through it, there's still that part of me, that higher aspect of me saying,
Mhm.
how is this for me right now? How is
Mhm.
this for me? And I'm going to surrender into it. And I still trust. And I think that, yeah, it all comes back to trust. I trust in being supported. I trust in being
Mhm.
guided. And on that not knowing, you have that. I love what you said there. You get that super clear message of this is the step I'm going to take. And then you take it and you're like waiting for the next bait to come. You're like, oh, wait,
It's
where are you?
almost like
Where'd
an
you go?
addiction,
It can
it
be
can be like, it's like, oh, this
but
feels really good. I know
yes,
I'm going to take the next
what
step because I got
what I
it.
have come to find in those moments, one aspect is that I can't take the next step because my perspective of what I believe is actually possible needs to be stretched.
Yes.
And it's like, you aren't going to be given the next step because in your capacity of vision, you're not actually seeing what's possible for you.
Mm-hmm.
I get that all the time. Like, you think you want to make this much money. You think you want your business to be in this way. You think you want this type of ceremonial experience. And that's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And there's actually more for you. And you can't see it, you don't understand it, you can't feel it yet, but we're putting a pause. We're helping you. Because when you make that determination, like, I'm going to align my divine service, my divine mission, I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
abundance, joy, beauty, bliss. Sometimes we get stopped in our path. It's like, well, if you want that, if you really want that, you have to
Yep.
stretch what you believe is possible. And so we kind of
Yes.
take that next step. And then it's like, we're not giving you any more because you need to actually embody more of your divinity. And that's where I go so deep into earth medicine, connection with the earth,
Mm-hmm.
slowing down, taking
Yeah.
rest, being in the human experience, like you were saying, and enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just continuously listening to meditations, meditating myself, working with crystals to prepare my body to actually receive whatever that higher possibility is. And I'm just like always in that state of expecting blessings, in that
Mm-hmm.
expectation of like, it's coming, it's here, or rather, that's the better wording. It's here, and
Right.
I am continuously preparing for it. And but yeah, it's still when you're in that darkness, so uncomfortable because it is,
It
because
really can be.
when you get that real strong intuitive hit, you follow through and it's magnificent. It's like, yes, you kind of like expect that to happen again in the same way. But it's just such a fun dance the way we're
Oh,
working with the divine.
it is. It is such a fun dance. And
Yeah.
there's also the balance too of, sometimes wanting feedback from others. You mentioned before about, receiving guidance and having other healers to work with, or
Yeah.
psychics or intuitives or whatever. And that is beautiful too. But sometimes it could be too much.
Yeah.
And sometimes because we want those answers, we start to take on so much more information, and that really muddies the water of our own intuition and our own guidance.
Mhm.
Kind of clogs the wheel or clogs the pipes, so to say.
Yeah.
And creates some murkiness.
Yeah. Yeah. I always find that when we are in a state of lack, fear,
Hmm.
scarcity,
Yep.
we're always grasping for more, more, more.
Yes.
And that doesn't discount the times where on a soul level we are just deeply thirsting for nourishment, for wisdom
Right.
transmissions and for activations. Yeah, that happens, but you can do it from an embodied sense, from a place of like, I'm
Hmm.
already whole, I now receive, compared to I am not whole. I need to find, I need to find. It's like just like outwardly trying to grasp for information. And
Yes.
yes, and that definitely leads to yeah, it's working with our intuition to try to find answers, to feel whole isn't really the depths of what intuition is.
Yep.
Intuition is in India, it's called a siddhi, which is a spiritual power. And it's just what develops as we develop spiritually, as we meditate more, as we connect with the divine. For me, my intuition, first and foremost, is my relationship with God, with the divine. How am I experiencing my relationship with the divine, which is who I am, on a much more embodied level every single day? And then from that experience, of course, because if you're connecting with the divine, that is everything and everyone. And so the more we're embodying that relationship for ourselves, the more of course we can start interdimensionally traveling and connecting to more
Hmm.
information and so on. But yeah, if we're start trying to work with the intuition just for gaining more knowledge, we're actually not using our intuition in a way that is actually going to strengthen the depths of it, which is our relationship with the divine. And I think that's also goes hand in hand on how the intuition is going to develop in the first place, is through deeply trusting in yourself, trusting you're safe, trusting you're provided for, trusting that you are loved, you are love itself. Just all root chakra stuff, embodied energy. And then when we feel that sense of safety and embodiment, of course, our intuitive and psychic abilities are going to flourish because we're grounded, embodied, and safe and whole. We're not trying to search for something to feel whole.
Right.
We're exploring for further activation and just getting to experience our multidimensional self. So yeah, working with intuition is. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Oh, no. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say it's so nuanced. Right?
It is.
It is so nuanced. And I love that word so much because everything is so nuanced. It's all about, learning that discernment and having that connection with yourself and that relationship with yourself. Then the relationship with the divine. And they are one and the same, but also separate. Right. So it's that nuance. And when we're looking at like too much to the external, that's, I don't know. I don't even have the right word for it, but I always say everything's within you.
Yeah.
Everything
it
is
really
within.
is. Even when we quote unquote multidimensionally travel, it's really just like it's traveling deeper within self.
Yes.
That's all that's happening. I think so often we visualize ourselves when we're ascending this path of going up and out. But what's really happening is we are in the realm of we are one with everything. Yeah, we see ourselves as this very small, this contained body experience, but our consciousness is within everything and everyone. So really what's happening when we travel, when we ascend, we're going deeper within, we're going further and further within to the truth of ourself. And and that's really what the intuitive gift is happening. And when anytime you practice meditation or deeper spiritual practices, you're just turning your psychic gifts online. You're just becoming a lot more receptive and perceptive to all of reality, all of that we really are. And that can be intense for some people to start feeling that much energy, feeling your emotions at a whole new capacity. Because when you're tune into your intuitive channel and come online to more of your multidimensional self, everything turns on, not just the joy, the bliss, the happiness, but also the grief, the pain, the suffering. And that's why many times highly sensitive people, intuitives, psychics have turned off the intuitive channel and gifts in order to just bear the suffering, the pain that is this human experience. Oftentimes it's very dense on this world, and it's that pain, you really feel it, and the suffering, you really feel it. And as a protection mechanism, it's just, well, I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to turn off the feeling. And our emotions is part of our intuitive channel. It's how we feel, sense, and know the divine. And so, because many people have turned off this feeling sense, but what's happening now, and this is part of why I decided to hold the Sacred Intuitive again this year, is because there is such a powerful activation across the energy lines of Mother Earth. I mean, her literal energy system, chakra systems, is upgraded with higher Christ-like codes. And this is radiating through our earth. It's radiating up to the divine beings. We're all divine beings, but those who are really conscious of it, flowing up through our root, through our feet, radiating out through our hearts, activating our chakras. Depending on where you live on the earth, sometimes there's even more powerful energy surges happening. And then what's happening collectively is just a much bigger connection to our intuition, to psychic abilities. And so we're feeling a lot more, feeling the grief, the sadness. Well, what does this lead to? Of course, union consciousness, compassion, but it's what's happening is there's deep discomfort and pain and a lot
Yes.
of like, what is happening, feeling a lot more. And it can be really disorienting if you're not
Yes.
embodied and grounded. And that's why I feel like it's important to really hold this mentorship to support those where these gifts are not only turning online, but also those where it's amplifying, and actually
Yes.
how to not, because what can happen is it's like, wow, this is coming back on. I'm going to turn it back off. Instead of turning back off, knowing that this is a gift and how to actually
Yes.
work with this without fearing it. I think a lot of people fear
Mhm.
this, this amount of feeling and
Yes.
energy.
It can be very overwhelming. I mean, that was my journey. I completely turned off. I was highly sensitive as a child and turned
Yeah,
it off. And I had a misdiagnosis, and I was on a
right.
lot of medication, so that was turned off. But then when I started going off the medication, everything turned on, and it was like I can't remember, it was 2015, 2016. It was like I was electrified. I couldn't go to a store because I could smell, I could taste, I could feel
The
everyone, and it was
lights.
so overwhelming. I'd be weak. I was woken up in the middle of the night by like all these beings, and I'm just like, stop,
Yeah,
stop. I could hear everyone, feel everyone. I could see like
yeah,
their whole entire being, and I was just like, nope, this is a lot. And I didn't have all of the resources that
right,
your program offers. And I can
right.
see, I did it piecemeal on my journey since then. I actually did take your authentic alignment, which was an
Yes,
earlier iteration of this program
yes,
a few years ago. But, when you have a program like yours, it's just such a magical experience that you're able to offer people to help them through this time, because
yeah,
there is nowhere to hide anymore.
right.
There isn't. People are either getting really sick and they don't understand why, and they keep trying to turn it off, but you can't. You can't. There's
No.
just nowhere to hide anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want to. You don't want this has
No,
happened. This is a gift. It really
it
is a gift.
is.
It's, higher perception is not only uh one, and first and foremost, it's deeper connection to self. And yes, that means you have to truly look at yourself, look at the addictions, the habits, the shadows, the grief, the guilt, the shame, a lot of energy that the shame and guilt that's not even yours, but processing and feeling it. And it can feel like like, what is wrong with me? I backtracked.
Yes.
Like why am I experiencing all this? Why is this coming up? How am I such a bad person? Or, or doubting yourself, lack of confidence. Like, how is this returning now when before I didn't even feel it at all? And it's just because you're perceiving it. You're just turned on a lot, we're turned on a lot more
Yep.
to ourselves. And I'm not saying this standing from a podium here. I'm saying this
Mhm.
because I feel this, like, there's, after my last birth with my third child, and home birth, free birth in the
Mhm.
bathtub. So talk about, part of
Talk
my
about
journey of
powerful.
developing my intuition is, yeah, is having home birth with all three of my children, and deeply trusting my body, my womb, the process, just absolute surrender. And yeah, this third time's a charm. It was like a 2 hour birth, and uh it was it was very intense very intense at first. It just like brought me to my knees so quick. But
Mhm.
when I really surrendered into it, and I felt the pressure, the bearing down, his head pressing onto my pelvic floor, I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, there's a baby. There's a point when you're like, oh yes, I'm doing this for a reason. And that pressure reminds me of it. And it came so quick. And with that pressure, it was like, it was pleasurable. I was
Yes.
in this experience of just absolute joy, and I joyfully and pleasurably birthed my third child in my bathtub at home. And it was so amazing. And it unlocked something. It was like, because I experienced that amount of pleasure in something that we
Mhm.
collectively call a very tragic, painful,
Mhm.
condemning experience, because I tapped into that pleasure, it created this sense of like profound safety and a space for my body to actually heal. And I tapped into, it was almost like what's been unraveling now since that experience. It was in December, so 6 months ago. It's like these
Unbelievable.
chambers within my womb that I have not, it wasn't in a capacity to feel and process, are now unraveling.
Yeah.
Deep wounding of rape and trauma and disempowerment that I didn't even know was there. And not from this lifetime, from many other lifetimes, but also collective rape, ancestral, because of that like power of pleasure. It was like also experiencing the unraveling of the immense pain and suffering. But I know that I was experiencing this only because I'm ready. But I also have the tools to be able to support myself in recognizing what's happening, instead of saying like, I had that pleasurable experience. Now, why am I processing all this pain, trauma, guilt, rape? Instead, it's like, okay, this is wonderful. This is coming up to process, to release.
Exactly.
Thank you. I cleanse, I clear. I'm so grateful that I get to experience this. And so this is what's happening in a collective, is that, the more we're accessing this higher light codes in our body, the more our energy is literally vibrating at a higher frequency. So it's purging our bodies of old stories and timelines and just parts of ourselves that don't serve us anymore. And it's a very intense experience. But through developing just this is part of the developing the intuitive gifts, really, is just the ability to deeply feel. You're coming online, tuning into self. There's, like you said, there's nowhere you can hide. You can't hide from yourself anymore.
No.
You don't want to, but it's still challenging to feel all that, to experience it, and to recognize that something's not quote unquote wrong, because our body is so wise. If there's anything that I've learned from working with Reiki for however 8 years I've been working with it, it's like the body is built to heal. It's always working to bring you into harmony.
Yes.
Constantly. So there's nothing wrong when something is purging. It's right. But we're feeling it a lot more. And I think a lot more people are more collectively feeling the pains, the wounds, the traumas, not just within themselves and past lives, but also ancestral healing.
Yeah. It's so true. And, that darkness and those feelings from within can be overwhelming. And I always tell everybody, it feels so much bigger than it actually is, because once you take the time to go within, it's easy to release. Not that it's easy to release, but it moves through you so much.
Right. Because your
quicker.
Body's meant to do that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it reminds me of like what you're saying about the joy. You go in and you feel into it and you're like, that's it. That's the big bag scary wolf, like that's the monster that was hiding under the bed. It's nothing. And that, that's where that trust comes in, and building that. It takes time to develop that relationship with yourself, that trust, that faith that you are taken care of, that your body can support you. And that is a journey that I am on with my body, because I didn't trust it for so long with my illness. I had the Lyme disease. And so rebuilding that relationship at how wise my body is, it has all of the answers. I will randomly, if I start to feel a little something, my body will tell me that you need that face cream because your body is changing, or you need that, whatever, you need more of this food. My body will tell me if I take the time to listen. And instead of like looking external to myself, and that's easy to do. And it goes round to what we were discussing and what you were talking about, is it's so much easier to look outside of yourself, but you hold all the answers. And it's just such a beautiful,
so true. And with one thing I do like to do to play with is I ask that, like, okay, yes, the answers are inside, and I trust that I'll be given, whether it's the body message or coming from my chakras or whatever. But I'll also kind of play with it, like if there is a book that's supposed to come my way, if there's like an ad that's supposed to come my way, if there's like whatever, a conversation I'm supposed to have, I just throw it out to my guides. I'm like, bring it. If it is going to be best coming through a source that's
Yes.
already written or described, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm all here for it.
Yeah.
I've had so many wonderful coincidences of information or books or conversations. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that was the divine speaking right through, or
Yes.
that was a divinely guided, experience or interaction. And so I love that as well. And that's working
Yes.
through that space of trust and surrender, that
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to try so hard. I think that's the
Right.
biggest thing with, when we develop our intuitive gifts. Yes, it takes dedication and devotion. But what are you dedicating and devoting yourself? It's not the main focus, for me, is
Mm-hmm.
it's not how powerful can my intuitive gifts become. My main focus is how deep is my relationship to the divine.
Mm.
That's first. And then secondary, what comes from that is, of course, the intuitive gifts happen
Right.
and develop and flow. But when we are, really anchoring into our intuitive gifts in that way, from that presence of that the divine consciousness, that loving consciousness, then everything does just, it flows to us in a lot. We don't have to try so hard to
Mm-hmm.
to make things work, to try to see, try to force, try to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's what are we doing to develop a relationship with the divine? The meditation, the spiritual activations, the cleansing our body. If our
Mm.
body has a lot of toxins in it, it's
Yep.
hard to receive messages. It really
Yes.
is. Heavy metals, a
Mm-hmm.
sluggish liver,
Yep.
an imbalanced gut, like, because this is our way our body actually speaks to us. All of it's connected.
Yep.
So of course there's things we can do, tools, techniques, and that's so much
Mm-hmm.
what we talk about in the Sacred Intuitive Mentorship, is the tools, the techniques to develop both personally and professionally. But the biggest foundation is that trust in the divine. And that only comes with our relationships to the divine. It's just like that feeling of God, the divine source within our body. And then from that space, when you actually feel that sense of trust, when you are opening yourself to an answer, when you're choosing to tune in, you're not afraid that you're going to open yourself up to energies that are negative or bad
Mm.
or malicious. You're not afraid of what you're going to perceive or what you're going to let in,
Mm-hmm.
because you have this deep trust that you are divine, and you hold your power. You are sovereign. You get to choose. You create your boundaries.
Yep.
You choose what you connect into, what you close off. It's all within your own power.
Yes.
And that is just the foundation of the divine, because a lot of the reasons a lot of the women have prevented themselves from saying they can do this or believe they can. One is they just feel like it's not for them. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
isn't for me. This is for other people. I don't have this gift. And like, we are
Everybody
intuitive.
does.
Everybody is. It's the way we communicate with the divine. We are the
Yes.
divine. We are
Mm-hmm.
literally God emanated in human form. So of
Mm-hmm.
course you're intuitive. There's no way you're not. But of course, some people have more heightened abilities at this
Yes.
point in time, but they've developed it over many lifetimes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you've done so amazing Akashic record readings with me, and some of the readings you share with me was like, yeah, just intuitive activation and gifts in many other lifetimes that you've shown me. And it's something that clearly I've been working on for many lifetimes, and
Yes.
it's just kind of more online and present here. Many women that I work with, especially on the priestess path, have consciously turned off their intuitive gifts as well, because of their gifts being used, their power being extracted, them being
Mm-hmm.
abused, not in like the like etheric realms, but like on this very physical realm over the last couple of thousand years of
Yep.
massive destruction of the feminine
Yep.
body and feminine consciousness. And so it's like rebuilding that trust that
Yep.
it's safe. It's safe for you to shine in your gifts as intuitive, especially in the female body. It's safe for you to claim that your abilities, your connection to the divine, to unlock the power of your cosmic womb. Like, it's safe to do that. And it's not like you're not going to feel that safety just by me saying it. It's like you actually feeling it and embodying it. So that's one reason why many women are kind of hesitant to turn this on,
Mm-hmm.
because they feel like they're going to be used for their power, their light, the more they shine. But also there's that fear that they're not going to have control over their gifts,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like. Their fear like, oh, they're going to attract something negative,
Hmm.
or open up too much and not be able to handle it. And
Yeah.
all of the fears of just what happens. And that's just because there's an attachment to the limited form,
Yeah.
because everything that we're perceiving outside of us it is who we are. We are
Yes.
multidimensional. We have communication with every level of existence, with interdimensional beings. It's who we are.
Yeah.
We're not just this human form. And in containing our consciousness just to this limited expression isn't keeping us safe in any way.
Yeah.
The more we awaken to who we really are, from that place of just, that inherent sense of safety, the more we realize we're not just this human form, and we can expand with a sense of trust. So there's a lot of reasons that we resist these intuitive gifts. And those seem to be some of the
Absolutely.
most fears that I see women coming up with.
Yeah. And that's going back to that when you first come online, everybody does differently, but when it's overwhelming, but
Yes.
with the right tools and with the right training, like what you teach in the Sacred Intuitive, you really can control that. I shut it down.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going out and I'm going to be around people, like it's not that, I'm getting all of these messages, if
Right.
it's really
Sacred
important, like the
boundaries.
same thing. Exactly. You
Mm-hmm.
create the boundaries. You get to control the relationship that you have
Yeah.
with the divine,
Yeah.
with all of these beings, with your guides. You know,
Yeah.
I I used to fear going to sleep because I was like, I had all of these beings and
Yeah.
visitations. And then I realized that like I get to control
Yeah.
that, I have boundaries. Listen, Jesus, like I'm not talking
Yeah.
to you. I need to sleep.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it also just comes down to loving yourself enough to
Yes.
create a life where you're supported in
Mm-hmm.
your sensitivities.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge for me. I live out in like the middle of nowhere, Indiana. I don't leave my house much. I mean, I have 3 little kids under 4 right now, so that's a big reason for that. I love it. I like
Yeah.
going to a grocery store still. It exhausts me. It's a
Yep.
thing. If I have to prepare myself to go to a grocery store,
It's a
go
lot.
out and do things and
Mm-hmm.
engage, it's a lot for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I've released that pressure to try to
Yeah.
be something other than I am, and
Yes.
recognize that I am enough just right now. And I
Mm.
don't want to have to, force myself to engage with activities and outings and conversations that are actually quite depleting. And it's not like it's, shutting down this world or like putting other people down. It's just my energy field. I need a lot of alone time. I mean, I've always
Oh,
been
so
like
do I.
a lot of alone time, and time to just relax and definitely be in nature. And that's just who I am. And I've chose to
Mm-hmm.
create a life around that.
Yeah.
It feels great. And so, loving ourselves to know what our boundaries are, who we want to engage with, who we don't want to, where we want to go out and we don't. I understand there's things that sometimes we have to do. I get it. Like having to go to
Right.
the BMV and like, doctor's offices or things like, yeah, sure, there's things we have to do.
Right.
But generally, it's like, what do we get to say yes and no to?
Yes.
And create the life that supports like deep nourishment. Like
Mm-hmm.
the more our nervous system, our physical and energetic nervous system is nourished, the much more powerful our intuition is. Because we can just,
Absolutely.
the current of divine energy that we can embody and feel is so powerful. So the
Yeah.
more our chakras are strengthened, the more our nadis, our energetic lines are cleared and cleansed, and the more our nervous system is so deeply nourished, our uh how many thoughts are moving in our mind. What are we thinking about? How often are we in the future? Are we really reliving the past? How present can we actually be? What are the quality of our thoughts? Where are we gripping our body? Are we tightening our belly? How's our heart? Is it beating fast? Where's our breath? Is it up here? Is it low?
Mm.
Like this deep awareness of self. And For me, I find that I can have a much more regulated system when I have a lot more rest
Yes.
and it can be out in nature. Now, with having 3 kids under 4, my nervous system definitely is a little overactive.
Yes.
Quite often for the amount of chaos I
You
can
can't
do.
necessarily help it.
but but it is what it is, and that's okay. That's something I will claim, I'll take, and I say yes to because there's so much joy in it.
Right.
Um but yeah, it's our nervous system, our grounding, and our choices of how we want to create our life that also supports it, because it will, for me, it would be overwhelming if I lived in the city, if
Hmm.
I had to do all my own grocery shopping by myself. My husband, thankfully, so does all the grocery shopping. He's amazing. If I had to go to the stores all the time,
Hmm.
and if I lived in a city and was like working in an office, a desk job,
Oh boy.
I would be so taxed out. I would want to turn my intuitive gifts off. I would want to dull my senses because it would be way too much. So I
Yeah.
understand
It's
those
more
who are living
survival.
very active life and engagements that are draining, that you're going to turn down your feeling and your senses so you can survive and be in this world 100%. But when you create an environment where you can be
Breathe.
nourished and relaxed and have healing frequency codes playing in the background, listening to meditations, it's so helpful, it's so nourishing. And any little steps you can take, I mean, it just completely allows you to actually feel more, to really be present more. And then it's so profound when you can really be in relationship with others, where
Yes.
you can feel more together instead
Hmm.
of having to turn yourself off. And that's really more about sacred relationship and sisterhood and community. But yeah.
It goes back to the nuance, like,
Yeah.
and and it comes back to that relationship with yourself and that building that intuition, those
Yeah.
boundaries, and being able to say, like, okay, my life right now, maybe I need to work this 9 to 5. Maybe I need to live in this city, but that's just not an excuse. So I've been there. So how can you you know, find the time and the willpower, so to say, to understand your energy, to learn about your energy and what you need. So take the times where you're not in the office and you're not in the city or whatever that looks like, and find that balance. Try to create that balance within you,
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
your
And
environment.
it goes the same way too. Somewhat, you could be living out in the middle of the woods and
Yep.
by yourself and have a completely dysregulated nervous system because
Yeah.
of your thought patterns, the media you're taking in,
Hmm.
the beliefs you have about yourself. So it's not just about the outer environment, it's also about our inner environment, but it's about choice. Like, what are we do? Like, how is my nervous system, and what do I
Hmm.
need to do to create that sanctuary, inner sanctuary and outer sanctuary, for
Absolutely.
that relationship of self to bloom, and then the activation of intuitive gifts to really land, and for you to feel safe enough to turn yourself on more and more and more.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a it's not simple. I mean, it is, but it isn't, because there are so many pieces to
Yeah,
it,
there
right?
is.
There's so many
Yeah.
layers to it. And,
Uh-huh.
when you start to listen, then it all starts to come together and it becomes a little bit easier to
Yeah.
navigate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, share a little bit more about your mentorship. When does it start? And
Yeah.
some more details.
Yeah, so the Sacred Intuitive Mentorship, it starts on the solstice this year. It's a 12-week journey, and the whole first 2 months of it is really anchoring in this inner and outer environment to develop one's intuitive gifts and to remember to reclaim and activate that which is already within you, for you to feel so confident and just trusting yourself and knowing that this is a living truth within you, that you have this ability, And this is for those who are kind of on that edge of like, is this for me? Am I intuitive? But it's also for those who are very anchored in their intuitive gifts and want to take it to the next level. All of my mentorships are woven together with a lot of wisdom transmissions, but more importantly to me are healing activations, frequency transmissions, where you're actually healing and receiving light codes to activate more of your divine blueprint, that divine self, that divine knowing, to purge, release the fears, resistances, blockages that are preventing you from accessing your gifts, and also to strengthen your nervous system, your energy body, for you to download, anchor in, and feel more of your relationship with the divine. And then I give a lot of the last month of it is a lot more about more of the tools and techniques for translation, because it's a big piece of it. It's like, okay, I'm receiving all of this information, or I'm kind of perceiving it. What do I do with it? How is this useful for myself and also for others? How do and what works best for you to translate messages? I give so many practical ways of working with that more nuanced, subtle information and bringing it to form, bringing it into this reality to be of use, of guidance, of a creative force in this life. And then I work with a lot of offering more kind of professional business support as well, if it's something that individuals want to offer professional intuitive readings. Now, I've, over the last 5 years, have offered thousands of hours now of intuitive readings. I for 5 years, I have every week, multiple times a week, sometimes many hours, sometimes at least a couple, but continuously offered intuitive readings. It is a living part of my life. I love it so much, and is the foundation of the work I do, is offering intuitive readings. I just it finds me, and once it found me, it has not left. So I have many hours of what it means to channel intuitive readings, and then to speak them forward in a way that is so empowering, that every client leaves with this sense of, a deeper connection, this sense of wholeness, something clicks. And it's so magical. I love it so much because of the impact and the clarity and the processing that happens with these intuitive messages that clients receive. I mean, it's so profound. And I use my intuitive gifts as well to channel the wisdom that comes through in all my mentorships. I use my intuition also to guide my steps in my business. Like we were saying, like, what is that next step? Like I let it, when do I do things? So this happened with the Sacred Intuitive. I channeled it in winter 2021, and I offered it twice in 2022. And it's been a couple years, and I just kept getting the message, it's not time, it's not time, it's not time. And then once after the birth of Luca 6 months ago, I did a lot of very powerful activations, priestess activations, connection with Sophia Christ consciousness. And I knew something big was coming. Part of it was this creation of my high alchemies of the priestess training, but there was something else. And it was like, bring back the Sacred Intuitive. And I was like, okay. And it was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. And as I was tuning into it, that message of people, this is needed right now because of the increase in frequency, vibration, and Christ's codes that are coming on earth. That it is now time. And not only is it time for others, I have evolved and changed so much over the past couple of years since the last time I've offered it. So it's just a very different energy activation, a much more higher light code transmission that's taking place. So it's a 12-week journey, and it's support for those who are both wanting personal intuitive read, like to personally develop their intuition. And for those who want to professionally develop their intuitive readings. And even for those who don't want to professionally offer intuitive readings, say for money, the way the mentorship work is going to support you to recognize the ways in which your intuitive channel is working through your gifts, whether it be having a loving conversation with your children and like working with your intuition to come through that way, whether it be working with your house plants and your intuition coming through that way. It's really going to frame it in a way that your intuition is coming through you for you to be of higher divine service to your life, whatever way. That might not be like the way I'm working or the way you're working, Steph, like, sharing actual services, right? To individuals but every single individual is in divine service in
Yeah.
relationship to their life. And when you really devote yourself to the divine and to your intuitive gifts, they begin to inform all of your actions
Yeah.
and you activate. It's like everything you do becomes this divine blessing, this divine alignment with divine service and divine purpose. And it's really beautiful. It's so fulfilling. It's so fulfilling to feel that sense of connection, of purpose and wholeness and everything we do in life. And it brings so much joy and meaning. So even if it's, you're not wanting to offer services in that way, it's still so supportive to
Yeah.
understand how it's in a part of your divine mission. But it is set up for those who are interested in actually moving from the mentorship, setting up an intuitive session and getting money for it, like creating
Wow.
a business offer. It's set up in that way as well. So yeah.
Yes. I absolutely love that you cater to, all types of women
Yeah.
on their journey. So it's not just for those who want to do professional, but it's also for individuals who want to build that trust and that relationship with the divine on a
Yeah.
personal level. I think a lot of times people make that mistake of once you start to develop your intuition, um, you have to do it professionally. And that's not true at all because, you know, we need spiritually aware people
Right. That's it. Mm-hmm.
everywhere. That's just the way that it is, whether
Yeah.
you're a banker or you work as a waitress or you work as a
Yeah.
professional intuitive or in the pharma industry, whatever that looks like. We need
Yeah.
people everywhere who are deeply
Yeah.
connected with themselves and with the divine.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, my husband, he's a farmer and he's so connected to his intuition, just being connected to the earth. I mean, the plants are speaking to him all the time and like what they need and when to water. Like
Yep.
it's so beautiful. It's so his connection with the plants. And I'm so grateful because I get to eat all this amazing organic,
Yeah.
delicious food from home. But so it's not just about, once these intuitions come, like feel it. If you feel this like pressure of like, oh my gosh, now I need to like be of service and I have to do this. And
Hmm.
it's not about that. If it
No.
lights you up, if it turns you on,
Right.
if you find joy in it, yes, 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 yes. Beautiful, amazing. Follow that. The divine is always speaking to us in our joys.
Hmm.
Always, always. I think we're past the reality of suffering and sacrifice. Our divine mission is not about suffering and sacrifice. That's
No.
an old paradigm.
Yes.
It's false. It's false light. You following your joy. That is your divine mission, like authentic joy. And that's what we're really here to do.
Absolutely. It has been such a
Yeah.
pleasure speaking with you. I absolutely love every time we connect and
Me
just the
too.
way the joy of what you do speaks through you is just so magical. Now, I believe you are offering some gifts or some freebies with those who sign up first. And I'm tooting my own horn here too because we are working together and I am going to be
Yes.
offering the first 8 individuals um, a, an I can't even speak, a visionary oracle card, which is an intuitive painting that I'm doing with a channeled message specifically for them. So those are going to the first 8 individuals who sign up. And I believe a lot of those places are already taken.
Yes, there's only 5 left now. So once those spots are taken, Steph won't be offering anymore. And those visionary oracle cards are amazing. I feel like you should explain a little bit more about what those are.
So,
Actually,
um,
I'll chime in. So
yes.
every sacred intuitive mentorship that I've offered, I've always co-created with Steph in some way, whether because when the first time I met Steph was, oh my gosh, I was in New Jersey. I had my little office space. It was like 5 years ago, and you came in and I was like, how did you find me? Like Google search, and you were working at the pharmaceutical business.
Yeah.
I'm like, this woman is like this magical mystic healer. And so, no, anyways, and so we worked together. I received so
Yeah.
many wonderful intuitive readings from you, and Yeah, when I
Same.
created this mentorship, I said, I really want Steph to be a part of this, just your energy, your wisdom, your just
Thank you.
everything. It's like Steph needs to be a part. So the past couple times we worked with, personal readings, I think Akashic records.
Yep.
And this time I was like, we had a conversation about, you told me about this visionary oracle card. And it was like personal painting and specific channeled message for the
Yeah.
individual. And I was like, what? I've never heard anything like this. Like, I have not heard any place where someone's going to channel a specific, yes, channel message for you, but
Right.
then have this beautiful oracle painting specifically for you. I've never heard anything like it. And I was like, if I do Sacred Intuitive again, this
That's
has
what
to
I'm
be a
gonna
part of
do.
it.
Yes.
So anyways, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So
Yeah,
amazing.
it was just this, I get all of these visions all of the time of all of these things that I can or cannot do. And this one has been strong for the past couple of years, and it's gotten stronger, stronger, stronger. And originally it was an intuitive painting to be used as an altar card. And I couldn't see the full picture of like how I would put together, because there were so many pieces to it with an intuitive message specific with the painting. And then when we were talking, I mentioned this idea, and then you asked me if I was still, had that on the horizon, and if I'd be interested for the Sacred Intuitive.
Yeah.
And that's how it all came together. I basically just channeled one for you, and it just all the pieces came together. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. This is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very much in the style of an oracle card, even the way that it's channeled and the way
Yeah.
of the wording. It's just very, like not a fable, but almost like whatever. I can't even, it's almost like poetry, the way that the
Yes.
messages come through. And it's going to be different for every single person. So for you, it was very much about surrender. And it was, the scene was very much in nature. It was about river
Yeah.
rocks, and it was about, the water flowing and the roots of the trees. And so that's
Yeah.
what came through. And, the next person, it could be just like a very abstract painting. And,
Right.
I always find it so difficult to explain these ideas or these thoughts in my mind, and how, what I want to do, how it translates to become an offer. So, you know, thank you for asking me to be part of the program, because it made it so much easier, because it was like, you have to do this,
Yeah.
I didn't really have a choice, because me, it sometimes gets lost, and then I move on to the next thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Yeah. So there's that. And then um, with the sign up of right now with the Sacred Intuitive, you get 6 months access to my fully self-paced course, The Authentic and Empowered Woman, which in
Oh, wow.
itself is a $3,000 course. So it's a very powerful healing experience, and just goes really hand in hand with the Sacred Intuitive. So it's just powerful to have that alongside. So that's just being that, yeah, that's going to be offered as well with that, a powerful freebie, kind of freebie, more of just uh, an extension
Yep.
of the Sacred Intuitive Mentorship. So yeah, there's this 12-week live group, and I find that the live energy is just so powerful. The women that come together, and
Yes.
the connection and the community and the energy that builds in the space together. So yeah, it's going to be a really beautiful journey. And then you're going to be coming on as well
Hmm.
to do a live call on a deeper discussion. So it's going to
Hmm.
be 13 classes all in one. Sometimes I throw in extra classes when I do lives as well. So it's a very in-depth program. You get
Yeah.
lifetime access to the
Wow.
program. Everything's recorded. There's additional about 8 PDFs. Every week you have additional 2 to 3 different activation healing videos, and everything's organized in an online platform that you have lifetime access to. So It's just
Absolutely beautiful.
it's an amazing journey.
It's absolutely beautiful. And, for all of those out there who aren't familiar with Ashley, her energy is just so powerful and so beautiful and so gentle and so kind. And her healing abilities and her intuitive abilities are just, they're so clear. And I highly recommend her. And I also highly recommend that you look into this program, look into this mentorship. I joined one of Ashley's programs a few years ago. I don't even know how long ago. It was like
Yeah, I think it was like
2021 or so. Yep.
3.5 years ago or so. Yeah.
And I developed so many friendships from the
Yeah.
women in that program. And I still chat with them to this day. I am still in
Yeah.
contact with them to this day. And some of them, it was just like love at first sight. It was just
Yeah.
this like remembrance of like like a soul remembrance. And we don't
Mhm.
chat that often, but we just are our sisters for life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful. Oh, it's just so amazing what can happen in these containers.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much. And I look forward to
Thank
our next conversation.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. This was just such a joy. So beautiful. Thank you for holding this space, creating this podcast, and having me on here. It was wonderful.
Thank you.